right. Hello, everyone. I don't see your faces. I'm going to assume you're going to be a very welcoming audience and you're going to be sitting there nodding your head, going, yes, I hear what you're saying. So let me go on. Cool. I am associate director. My background is in fine arts, and I had a meandering path to get here. Did a lot of things like I was a sign language interpreter for a couple of decades. And the through line is my journey has been fraught with communication and taking 2D and 3D and 0D narrative and turning it into a form that is comprehensible to whatever target audience it is. Um, the talk we're all running the asylum comes from the notion that this project that I've been working on for a number of years um, has been this crazy experiment, and I'm fortunate to be hurting developers and artists in endeavor that in which I don't consider them my employees, but instead my collaborators. Okay, so a bit of context. The idea for this came about in early 2020. I had just seen Murder on the Orient Express, the newest version. Basic Hercule Poirot movie where he's interviewing everybody, and it's interesting because everyone tells a story, and you don't know if it's the truth. And it occurred to me, and VR was still relatively new then. It's still fairly new now. I thought, what can VR do that's really interesting? And that is a very clear point of view. You are embodied. It's not an over the shoulder kind of thing. You're in that particular person's head. So I thought this might be an interesting prompt for a game. I pitched it to Magic, and Magic was at that time going to fund some projects that were pitched by faculty, and That Damn Goat was chosen, rightfully so, much, much smaller in scope, and mine was extremely ill-defined. And I think it was a blessing in many ways, because what happened, well, you know what happened in 2020. The world shut down. And I teach at RIT. Our game design and developer students are required two co-ops in order to graduate. So those opportunities dried up as well. I had this project in my back pocket, and I thought maybe we can find a way to provide this as an experience and get them their co-op. So what we did was we set up this thing we're calling entrepreneurial co-ops, faculty-led applications or games. Super important. We didn't have any money, and so it was going to be open source, and the IP is owned by everyone who works on it. Therefore, they are my collaborators. It was really important that we make it open source because we don't have time to go figure out pennies of profit if it ever came back. And now, having had over about 400 students working on this project, that would have been a nightmare. So that's where that is coming from. So the idea behind Changeling was that point of view notion. I didn't want to do a detective story where there was a murder. Thought it might be interesting. This is not a spoiler. What if we put it in a magical realm? And the mystery is not much of a mystery since the name is Changeling. There's something wrong with this baby who is acting rather strangely. Um, and your job as a detective is to find out what happened behind that. David Simpkins, who was a professor here at the time, came up with the suggestion that rather than memories, which are also ill-defined and not well, you can't really trust them. What if we had the power when you touched a character, uh, you would instead you could see their memories, but you would also get a sense of their hopes, their fears, their anxieties. Um, that became pretty brilliant because that allows us to enter someone's headspace, and we don't have to worry about physics. We don't have to worry about um, the strangeness that could be there that happens in someone's head. We have the ability to be surreal. So that informed a lot of what could happen. What we have with Changeling now is basically 4 different VR games in one, which is quite a bit. Um, the when I made the initial pitch, all I had was this notion that you would go into the mother's level, and the mom's head headspace, her emotional beat is she's so afraid of losing her family. And I thought it would be very ethereal and watercolor like, and she would be going out there trying to grab her children and family members before they disappeared. That's all I had in terms of the game pitch. And I thought, and then what will happen? Magic will happen. And each level would have a different story, a different mindscape. So what happens is the the street level is where we're introduced to Aurelia, um, her ability to touch people and then get into their memories. It's black and white. The aesthetic is film noir because she's a detective. Side note here, it became really important that we could hear this. So I'll talk a little bit more about the design pillars, but one of the first things we did was when we formed the teams, it's like we need a composer. We not only need artists, we need people to do narrative. We need people to do all the systems and everything. So it's a huge collaborative effort. So that's the street level. Angela's dream is moody, it's atmospheric. Again, the emotional beat is fear of loss. So it's kind of like Spider-Man. She's going around and catapulting herself through space, just trying to grab folks. Um, Dylan's workshop. Dylan is modeled after my dad, and I'm sure you guys don't know a person like this who is sort of that machismo. Is like everything's fine. I've got this sorted. I understand. We don't need to air our dirty laundry. Also, in terms of context, this is a world where magic is a thing, but magic is other. And Dylan is very distrustful of other invading his own family and also is very distrustful of magic. Um, Emotional beat, controlling, but I got this, very solvable. The mechanic was puzzles, which made perfect sense. Not a spoiler if you play this game. When you play Dylan's level, he is ultimately the whole world is going to crash around him because he can't control everything. Dougie's sketches. We are in his storybooks. He's been taking notes and he's fantasizing himself as a member of a party where all of his family members are different roles, and he uses a slingshot to go bounce and then teleport from place to place. So it's a puzzle platformer. All of them look very different. And they were all the brainchildren of every developer and artist that worked on this project. Because again, ill-formed, very loosely formed idea, where the inmates are running everything. Design pillars. This was a big deal. Okay. These were the three main things. VR needs to be relevant. What does VR afford that regular consoles do not? I will say I love Beat Saber. I love the verticality. I love 360. I love that it matters when I'm crouching or above. I will not recommend playing a horror game in VR because that is very frightening, and my suspension of disbelief is really, really good. Interestingly, I was at GDC and I was asking them, how do you lead a player throughout a level? I know we know how to do this on consoles. We use it visually, but what do we do in VR? How do we guide the player and make them go where we want them to go? And the person who was running it said, we don't. We just have them do it, and we set up a system of trust, and everything they need is right in front of them. To which I said, this challenge accepted. So there are a lot of design considerations that we have taken to in this process because VR really needs to be meaningful. The aesthetic, narrative, and mechanic need to be all one because we're going into each character's head. They're all going to be a different vibe. I'll take a note here, and I'm sure you guys are all developers and appreciative of the process. One of the things I learned early on is we need to have people talking about the sound and the aesthetic while the mechanics are being developed, because that affects everything. Today, we are beginning work on Kirsten's level. So the family is a mom who's Haitian American, the dad who's Filipino American, Dougie, who's a tween who's 13, and then Kirsten, who's a 3-year-old. Kirsten saw the baby, Toby, being taken. And we are in development right now of let's make a level that sticks. We've made several attempts. So think about this. A 3-year-old seeing her brother being taken, all she saw was, ooh, pretty, shiny. She's not scared of this. So this is how the prompt I gave to the team was, I want the vibe to be wondrous. I want it to be magical, but also kind of sus, because the kid is unaware that there's something kind of off about this. I'm like, how have you seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Remember Gene Wilder? He's in the tunnel. There's no earthly way of knowing. That's the vibe I want. And then we talked about this vibe. It's like, okay, if it was a Tim Burton movie, which one is it? Beetlejuice? No. Nightmare Before Christmas. Maybe too dark? Is it Alice in Wonderland? So one of the notes that we had, I made them go through this game called A Game of Essence. Let me explain what this game is. So you have a group of people, and then one person goes out, and then the people remaining will maybe pick someone in the room if you know each other really well. You might pick someone that everyone is familiar with. I pick Jeff Goldblum, for example. The person comes back, and then they ask a question. If this person were a breakfast cereal, what would they be? If they were a color, if they were an animal, if they were a book, if they were a movie, if they were a song. And it's an interesting exercise because it's a way to obliquely get at a vibe check that attacks it from a way that's unfamiliar. Um, the composer on the team came in and we visited Kirsten's level. So we were chatting, and so you guys, what if Kirsten's level were a song, what would it be? And they said Calypso Island music, to which we went, both me and the composer said, what, the what? Really? And then they said, yeah, we want it sort of light and sort of breezy. And then we want it to go get dark and somber later. So Stuart goes off and makes something, and it's cool. And then so he comes back with that, and then we have the artist come in and is like, who's working on the aesthetics, and like, okay, we're hearing this, the mechanic, this is this audio track, and I'm like, okay, we're vibing to this. We're still thinking about it. And then it's like, what does that look like? Oh, interesting. So it's an island vibe. I know you guys are thinking a particular palette. All right, cool. What about materiality? We're in Kirsten's head. So we are thinking at this current state of creating all the they're they're looking at making shaders so it looks like stop motion clay animation. Early days. We're going to see if it blows up. So I'm excited. Would I have come up with this? Oh, hell no. Hell no. That would not have come to mind at all. But you know what? I trust them and I trust the process. And the worst case that happens is we give it a shot and it doesn't work. But I think this one might stick. Last one, design pillar. Don't make anyone puke. This is a thing. This is a thing. So interestingly, there are a couple of things that contribute. So this is very technical. There are some things that contribute to VR nausea. One is not having a sense of space. So even though the mother's level, you're floating in space because your focus is on things that you are grabbing onto, people are not experiencing nausea, which is interesting. There are other places where people experience nausea. Turns out if the frame rate drops lower than, I want to say 90 FPS, that's like insta puke. This has technical ramifications. It's like, oh, I want to make it pretty. Remember all that aesthetic stuff? It comes crashing in with optimization and making sure that, yeah, don't make anyone hurl. That's a basic note. Okay. Issues. Ooh, okay. All right. When I started this when we pitched entrepreneurial co-ops, one of the things that was a reason for people having difficulty finding jobs is the job market, which is still true today. Also, there were some students who just don't know how to interview, who had no confidence. Maybe they don't people well. So, one of the things I took on as a note is if anyone applied to one of my projects, I would take them and make sure that I am mentoring them in so many different ways, including how to people. So, yeah, which has made the range of team sizes immense, and then also problematic because some people are in it because they didn't have skills or did not have social skills to interact. Lots of things that also skewed the teams. Okay, 100% turnover every 3 months. Ooh, that will give one pause. I write blessing and a curse. So everyone feels a great sense of imposter syndrome. I, anyone getting a new job is going to feel that, right? Um, so there's that time to get acclimated. Um, Many people have not. We're using Unreal and we're using Perforce as our repo. Most people have not had experience with either when they join the team. So we tell them it's okay. Um, Remember how I said I accept everyone? Some of the people I accept are neurodiverse. They hate me. They hate me because it's super unstructured. Because the way I run it is the first week, everyone sets up the repo and gets everything going, does tutorials, and then plays the game. Then calls dibs. It's like, what do you want to work on? You don't have to be good at whatever it is, because you will be better at it by the end of this. For people who like structure, having that amount of choice is terrifying. So in that case, I will say, okay, and sort of shoot them along a particular path. But it means the first few days are kind of chaotic. And yet it works because people have an opportunity to do things that they wouldn't do otherwise. Varied team sizes. Having a company that's 4 or 5 people versus 90 is quite difficult. Let's also add to that, when we first began, everyone was remote. So we're trying to do all of this in our own little spaces. So it's been eye-opening. So we've come up with a variety of ways. I say we, and I do mean that. We've come up with a variety of ways to address these things. Documentation by, this is the worst game of telephone ever. I am sure, yeah, I'll take that back. I was going to say, I'm sure none of you like documentation. Somebody there might. I'm not sure. Okay. So it becomes really interesting in terms of development. Um, I know I have the luxury of being in a project that doesn't have to worry about a return on investment. It is free. It is open-ended. Um, so I can do some things that I wouldn't do otherwise. You guys all need to pay your bills. So I am aware that this is very interesting. But the tension is this. Um, I want to support anyone who works on it. I want to be rah-rah. I want to be a cheerleader. I want to mentor them. I think one of the powers of having a project like this, as opposed to a regular co-op, is where else are you going to get a chance to be an audio engineer or a narrative designer a systems engineer, level designer, technical artist without having been out in the industry for a while. Um, this is this is a great opportunity versus um, creating a finished product, exposing students to a real studio environment with milestones, reviews, and deliverables. I had an interesting discussion with another faculty member who was running their co-op, and I thought they were very strict and kind of unkind, and would say things like, "I would have fired you at this point because you didn't deliver on the things that you had promised." Um, their argument was students need to know what the real world is like. My response to that was, do we? Do we have to? Um, I think there was there was that tension between providing an experience and being a mentor versus a real world experience. And I am going to go fully on the side of let me create a studio with my rules in an idealized environment. Because when else are they going to get a chance to do this? Um, I think, no, I believe that to be able to design, you need to be in a safe space. Um, you need to be okay with experimenting and failing and trying again. And it doesn't cost you anything to try something. It's really hard because many people are perfectionists. They don't like putting stuff out there that's not right. Um, I am trying to teach the people I work with, my collaborators, that when you run a playtest, assume it's going to be shit. Just assume that. And then when you get feedback, it's a gift because it'll make you better. And it's no nothing on you. Because what you're putting out there is a work in progress. Um the we're all imposters at the beginning and maybe even at the end. Um I check with the people working on, and 100% of everyone at the beginning feels like she's going to find out I don't know anything. And by the end of it, there's a level of comfortability. Some of them still feel like imposters, but at least they're better at hiding it. Um, Side note, the image here, when Aurelia is walking down the street, when she touches the different characters, we get to see some of their memories. Uh, Talking about being able to flex, we've had illustrators come in, and ideally, every single person that you touch has a different art style because we had a different illustrator able to go put their stuff in there. And that has also been an opportunity for artists working with us. Okay, how we run it. Okay. Um, Super important to establish. I tell people, you probably have taken classes from software engineers and talked about agile development, and we're doing that. But the main thing is, I'm assuming that you are all here because you are passionate about making something and that you're going to grow. The culture is speak out, and I want you to see one another and be able to comment on what each person is doing. Um, I and most of my meetings with "I appreciate you." And I'm keeping track of everyone's contributions. To that end, super important, daily stand-ups. Really quick, just so let's like check in. It's like, what is everyone doing? Many of you do this. What are you working on? Any blockers? Do you need something else to do? Do you need help? And then this is the point where people chime in and say, here, we've got some notions. This is something I instituted the very first semester and have maintained. And that is, while you're at work, you're in the Discord voice channel. It's kind of odd, but that way, I have a mixture of people who are in person, and many are distributed throughout everywhere. But when people are in Discord, then they're sort of virtually co-located. I'm sure you've been on teams where people go off and do their own thing, but when you're in the same room with someone and working on a project, is a very different vibe. So we're doing this in Discord. The only rules I have is no soundboards, because I was tired of the yippee and ha and all the different sounds. And also, I now disallow evil clowns as an avatar, because that was kind of triggering one semester. I don't even remember the name of the guy who had the evil clown. I just remember him as evil clown guy. Not a good look. Leads are precious. And this means I trust them. And they are given a tremendous amount of agency. And they know this is the purpose, this is the culture. And they need to, that filters down to everyone else. So it goes steps down. I tell them, feel free to use me as a club, because if someone isn't underperforming, it's like, I don't want to bring in Weez. Let's go bring this in. And my method of keeping people aligned is mother guilt. I don't know, some of you have worked with me. Disappointed mother face is probably the worst thing for most people. And that is my superpower. Interesting. Okay, the next slide is thank you. But let me also 34 minutes. I was shooting for 40. Okay, cool. I will add a little bit more time. Things that I have learned, other than things that I've talked about here, that we need to have everyone in the boat from the jump. I don't know how many of you have played VR, but there are things that everyone does in a VR game, and that is, people will try to pick up everything. If people can pick it up, they will throw it. That's just the thing. Also, some people will punch. So there's certain interactions that everyone does. We have a thing where people can do some finger painting in the VR. Interesting thing that people do with drawings. Most people will either do a smiley face or a dick, one or the other. One person won by doing a dick and then putting a smiley face on each of the balls. I was like, you win. You absolutely win. So the question becomes, there have been playtesters who never leave the tutorial section because they're too busy picking up stuff and eating it, or they're going to touch every single thing. And other people are like, I just want to go play the game. First design question that came about with that was, what do we do? Do we support and allow people to go explore? Or do we make sure that we put them on rails and finally they get to the game? The answer is the former. because we have a whole bunch of different gamer types, and the wonder of people just exploring and seeing things in VR for the first time is pretty stunning. It's pretty great. In terms of picking up and throwing things, we made some design decisions as a result of that. Like, for example, you can open up the refrigerator door in Aurelia's apartment. We were not going to put a dozen eggs in there because you know what would happen. You do. Interestingly, we did a play test while Aurelia's walking down the street. You can pet the cat, and you see cat memories, and the cat purrs, and there's a haptic, so it rumbles. Your hand rumbles while it's going, which is pretty nifty. The play tester at that point said, "I want to pick up the cat." Interesting. I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because in a lot of games you have pets." This sounds very reasonable, yes? Let's go back to the thing. If you can pick it up, you throw it. Should you be able to throw a cat? We thought about it. We did this thought experiment. It's like, okay, cats are resourceful. The cat sticks the landing, and if you do it, they will get mad at you and run away. It's like, okay, that sounds kind of fun. If you can pick up the cat, shouldn't you be able to pick up the dog? If you can pick up the cat and the dog, shouldn't you be able to pick up the baby? You should not be able to throw a baby. So we just stopped it at that point. So that was an interesting discussion. So lots of things have come up. We've had some great fun thinking about and trying myriad mechanics and ideas. And there were no wrong answers. These were all experiments. So we're all running the Asylum. The state of the game right now is we're 5 years in. It's 4 different VR games, and it will be 6 by the time we're done. I think we're right on time. I'm hoping to retire in 2 years, so we got to get this done. So we're thinking about how do we wrap it up, and that's where I'm headed right now. And that's it. And now we chat. Okay, any questions?